Okay, so we're going to look at the 2024 October paper. We'll look at question number, last question. So the study of strategic management is presented in this course was modeled on a mature organization and consisted of three variables, namely nature of strategy, the formulation of strategy, the implementation of strategy. It argued that while the concept of strategy also applies to entrepreneurial organization, albeit with some modifications, identify some of the silent differences in strategy formulation and implementation between the mature and entrepreneurial organizations. So let's start firstly by breaking down the characteristics of the two organizations. What is a mature? What is a, a an entrepreneurial organization? What is a mature and what is an entrepreneurial organization? So I'll give you a summary table as I explain characteristics of each of these two organizations. So I'll look at them in different dimensions, in terms of their focus, in terms of their nature, in terms of their orientation. Okay, so we have two key types of organizations that we must take note of. So we have what we call the mature, we have what we call the entrepreneurial. So when you're talking about the mature organizations, these are, when to start with entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial, these are short-term adaptive organizations that are usually run by small entrepreneurs, okay, who have a limited size resource base. So the companies, organizations, like you can see, are broadly divided into two. We have mature and entrepreneurial. So depending on what stage of development they are, you can tell the characteristics in terms of the dimensions. So in terms of their planning, in terms of their their formalization, in terms of their risk appetite, in terms of their decision making, structure, innovation, their focus. So let's look at each of these ones in terms of planning horizon. So we can see mature organizations, they typically operate on long-term planning, which is often 3 to 5 years. So their strategies here are mature, they are carefully developed, they are well documented. Okay, they're designed to ensure that they will ensure sustainability, efficiency, and they have a consistent market. So they follow established cycles of planning. You must have a company in mind. Maybe you're talking about Zambi, you're talking about Sanako. Okay, so we need to use Zambian examples. So these are organizations that have established cycles in their planning process. So they align their organizational goals with the stakeholder expectations. Then on the left, we have our entrepreneurial organizations. So these are short-term, adaptive, all right? So they're short-term and adaptive in terms of planning horizon. So these, their plans are often reactive to immediate changes and opportunities. They're able to allow themselves to quickly respond to what is happening in the market. They are more flexible and essential in environments that have high uncertainty. We look at the nature in terms of formalization. So here, these ones are highly structured. They are a formal kind of planning. So their processes, their roles, their procedures are all standardized. They have clear documentation. They adhere strictly to our policies. This level of structure will help ensure that there's accountability and compliance. So on the other hand, entrepreneurial organizations are low level formalization. They tend to be informal at times and flexible. They often rely on verbal agreements and spontaneous collaborations. Okay, so they're informal in nature, they are fast at decision making, but they lack consistency, predictability. In terms of risk appetite, um, they have low, they're very risk averse, they mature, the big organizations. Why? They focus mainly on stable, incremental improvements. They avoid decisions that might threaten their established position or reputation. So they are risk averse. All right. Their risk is mainly assessed, they're mitigated through extensive planning. They are assessed. On the other hand, we have these small entrepreneurial organizations which possess high risk appetite. They are more willing to embrace uncertainty. They take bold decisions, quick and bold decisions. Okay. They pursue innovation. Okay. They are um, their failures are learning curve. They fall and get back, they get fueled up. In terms of decision making, we have mature organizations, they make a collective hierarchical decision making, which have management, departmental units that come in board. Okay, the decision making is so structured. So they have planners there, they have seek approval for certain processes to take place. So these decisions are aligned to the goals of the organization. So they are slow because of the aspect of decisions being approved. Then we look at the entrepreneurial organizations. Their decision making is more central. They often resist um, it's more central when you're looking at entrepreneurial. They rest with the small leadership and allows them to make fast decisions that are quick and responding to opportunities and threats. So in terms of resource base, can somebody explain? What can you say about resource base? Any explanation like you are seeing difference in terms of resource base?
I think when they're talking about resources, they're talking about financial resources, skills and capabilities of the people inside the organization. So in terms of skills, they are highly skilled. And in terms of financial resources, I think it's the ability to get maybe credit facilities because they've already established themselves in the market. Whereas in these entrepreneurial ones, the organization, they lack the skills, capabilities. So they mainly depend on the founder for his skills. And then when it comes to finances, like getting credit facilities, they are limited.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's making sense.
Very good. Well explained. So their access to capital is limited to their pockets. Okay, and technology is also constrained. So usually they require um, them being resourceful to achieve their results, whereas the mature, they are stable because they have sufficient resource base. So they enjoy access to consistent funding, which is coupled with skilled labor force and a structure which is established. Okay, somebody to explain on the structure and differences. Gladys, structure. Please use the notes that I have here. I want to create rapport and also group think. Differentiate the two in terms of structure.
Okay, yeah, on the structure for the entrepreneur, their structure is like it's a flat one because it's there are only a few decision makers in that particular structure, because mainly the decision is sitting with the founder of the business, and it's they can change. It's a bit flexible. So when something comes, maybe there's something like, since they're adaptive they're very adaptive to what is happening in the environment. So if the technology changes, for instance, they don't need to have so many people to make decisions for them to just change the structure to say, look, we're going to have this department come in and then do make this product. It's very flexible, in short, when you're talking about an entrepreneur, and the decisions are made very quickly, and they don't take that long to make the decision to adapt to what is going on within the environment, unlike the mature one, which is more organized. As I said, it's bureaucratic, meaning that there are several decisions that have to be made. So it could be, maybe it's even like a tall structure. So you have so many layers, so many levels before anything can be agreed upon. I don't know if that made sense.
It's very good. So, the structure for mature is more bureaucratic, like as she has said. So here the roles are well defined, the reporting lines are very clear, and there are formal layers of authority. There's a hierarchy. So this will help mature institutions to manage teams and complex operations. Whereas entrepreneurial, they have what we call a flat structure, where the roles can overlap. Individuals can take up multiple responsibilities. There's no order and structure. But at the same time, it will encourage innovation. There's faster communication. There are no bottlenecks in the process. Let's look at implementation speed. Somebody to take up implementation speed. Implementation speed. Okay, you can use the notes to guide you, please. This is getting interesting. Who hasn't spoken? Eunice or Susie? Implementation speed. Annie? MJ? What can you say about implementation speed? Okay,
I think as the previous speaker,
mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was Annie,
Mm-hmm.
she alluded to the bureaucratic system.
Yeah.
So because there are too many layers, there are many people that this decision has to pass through. It has to pass through finance, it has to pass through research and development. So there are many layers before it can be approved. You are going to look at government regulations, all these layers. So it will take time, meaning you're not able to respond faster to changes in the environment. Whereas in an entrepreneur organization, there's only one person. He's the one that is calling the shots. So decisions are made quicker and they're able to respond quickly to changes in the environment. There are new trends that are happening, something like that.
Okay, great. Yeah. So because of the multiple layers, like she started very good, the approval and risk mitigation for mature organizations will tend to be slower. Okay, so the new initiatives will actually take longer to be executed because of the internal process. So for entrepreneur organizations, they are known to be fast implementers. Okay, they move quickly from an idea to action. They are rapid in testing. They iterate solutions in real time. So this responsiveness will allow them to stay competitive in an evolving market. In terms of monitoring and evaluation, the mature firms will employ KPI-driven monitoring systems. So they'll use this KPI indicator dashboards and performance reviews to track their progress. They will make data-driven decisions. So the systems ensure that there's accountability. The system will ensure that there's alignment with strategic goals, whereas entrepreneurial firms are more in the informal sector. They have informal methods of monitoring. So the methods rely on the feedback from the customers and the market and the team intuition to gauging their progress. In terms of innovation, mature entities will tend to be incremental. They focus on refining and improving the existing products and services. So their innovation is tied to customer retention. Whereas entrepreneurial organizations, these ones, they pursue a radical or disruptive innovation. So they aim to challenge the industry norms. They create new markets. They offer revolutionary solutions. These ones will differentiate them from competitors. And stakeholder engagement is another aspect that is not here. I think we can talk about it in terms of stakeholder engagement. So for mature organizations, they will engage with a wide range of stakeholders. This could be the board of directors, the regulators, the customers. So this diversity will require communication and a balanced approach in decision making, whereas the entrepreneurial have a narrow stakeholder engagement. It's just a founder, a small group of investors, okay, reliant there. So this now takes us to our question. So our question now here is identify the salient differences in terms of formulation and strategy implementation between the mature and entrepreneurial organizations. What are some of the from the forerunning that has been explained? So what are the differences? We've talked about them in terms of approach, time horizon, the process of decision making. Okay. So now, in terms of strategy implementation, what are the differences? So in terms of structure and roles, so implementation for mature is through established what? Departments. Here, entrepreneurial organizations, they are overlapping. In terms of speed of execution, what did we say? It's slower for mature, but fast for entrepreneurial. In terms of control mechanisms, what can you say? In terms of change management,
Okay.
what are the differences between them? So we've talked about aspects to do with strategy formulation. So we need now to separate these ones. So aspects that have to do with strategy formulation, aspects that have to do with formulation of an implementation. So we need to make the differences in those categories. So what I gave you was just a broader difference. So we can differentiate them in those two aspects. So here are some of the key summary pamphlet on the differences that we noted on terms of strategy. So strategy formulations in terms of approach for mature, they are more formal and analytical, whereas entrepreneurial, they're informal and intuitive. In terms of time horizon, they are long-term, here they are short-term. In terms of process of involvement, here they involve multiple stakeholders, here only the founder. In terms of documentation, it is thoroughly documented, here it is undocumented. Decision-making criteria, it's risk-averse, here is risk-tolerant or fast. In terms of resource consideration, within the available resources, here they are resource constrained. These are the differences in terms of strategy formulation. If we look at the differences in terms of strategy implementation, what are some of the differences we can look at? We need to know which aspects go for strategy implementation and formulation. So roles and structure has to do with implementation. So here the established implementation is two departments and defined roles. Here it's overlapping. In terms of speed, it is slow. Here it's fast. In terms of control mechanisms, it uses KPIs. Here there are no controls at all. Change management here is gradual, and rigid here is fast. Communication is formal, here it's informal. Evaluation feedback is periodic, here it's real-time feedback. That is there. So those are the differences. I'll share with you the notes. So we end here. For now, thank you so much for your time, your participation.